Hi everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to another December daily video. Today I'm going to be working on days 15 and 16. It is actually well into January at the time I am filming this. I blazed straight through this project really quickly right up until this day, and then Christmas got busy, so I stopped, and then I immediately after Christmas got sick. So I'm only just now feeling up to being able to start creating again and filming projects again. So I'm hoping to get through this fairly quickly from here on out. I'm going to do my very best to have this done by the end of January. Hopefully I can achieve that. If not, then oh well. But anyway, this is the last page I did, days 13 and 14. Very simple collage photo, some wood veneer on a transparency here. I did staple this in stupidly, so I will have to pull out that staple in order to actually use this pocket. But otherwise I think I haven't thought too much about what I'm going to do on these 2 days. So I'm going to pull this tag out. This isn't going to go here. This is day 15 and this is day 16. So I just did 2 3x4s. So I think I'm going to do this over here. I did actually go in and Photoshop as well and add some just scripty text to this one. I just chose Comfort and Joy because we are cuddling in bed. That's me and Violet. She's watching my phone. We're just having a little snuggle. So yeah, I thought that would go nicely there. It's not quite black and white, but I've desaturated it quite a lot, so it's very subdued colors, and this one is in a sepia tone. I just wasn't loving the colors in these photos for this day, so that's why I did that. So I think for this one, I'm just going to simply adhere it at the bottom of the acetate there. I really like what's going on here with the houses on the other side of the acetate. Again, we were at home, so I really like that whole concept. That will probably go in the top. I do have this Be Merry tag, but I don't know whether I want to use it on this day because you can see through from the back, and I'm not sure whether I want red because there's no red on this page, and now I might just keep it really pastel, so I may just flip it over and maybe use this. We will see. I haven't really thought too much ahead. I have to go through and re-familiarize myself with all my stash because I haven't touched it in weeks. I will just show you guys what I've done with my rings. So I have changed out the rings. See, I don't have my pretty pink rings anymore. I did end up having to swap them out. So these are the rings I had in originally. And these are the new rings, so they're considerably larger diameter. I think these are 2-inch diameter rings. I wanted to use these from the start, but I couldn't get them through the holes. But having the pink rings in has kind of stretched my fabric a little bit, so that when I pulled out the pink rings and went to put these in, this time they fit really no problem. So because they've sort of worn that little groove into the spine, I was able to slip them in quite easily. So that's nice. They're quite a lot bigger diameter. Everything's sitting in there nice and flat now compared to how it was sitting. I am starting to get a bit of page curl there. But otherwise I think these rings are going to be able to fit everything in nicely now. So let's just go ahead and start crafting. So I'm just going to start by cutting my photos down. So I printed them both at around 3x4 on one 4x6 piece of photo paper. And these ones I just printed at home. I'm going to take that staple out. I'm not going to make you guys watch that. But I had stuck it on with some double-sided tape, so it does stay there. And now I'm just going to go ahead and stick my photo at the bottom of this piece of transparency. Same thing I did on the other side. So I'm just kind of sandwiching that 4x6 transparency between the two photos. And that one did end up being a little longer, so I'll just trim that bottom bit off. And yeah, that's pretty much, I don't do much to this side. I stick on one little puffy. I do like the little tree, so I'm just going to pop that below my words there. But I keep it pretty simple on this side. I did think about putting a puffy heart, but I decided against it. I'm just happy with how it looks like that with the houses on the other side of the transparency. Now I am just going to add, I think I popped 2 staples in to make sure that that doesn't come off, and I actually end up stapling it again when I put the numbers on. So I think, am I going to do that now or later? I can't remember. I do bounce around a little bit as I'm doing this process video. So that is something that I do tend to do with my projects anyway. I bounce between task back and forth. So I'm just going to trim this one down a little further. It wasn't quite big enough to be 3x4. So when that happens, I think it's better just to trim it down enough to make a proper border on it. And yeah, then it looks deliberate. So I'll flick through all my cards trying to find a card that I could use in the top there, and I just couldn't find any that I liked to use there. I've used most of the ones that I really like the best already. So I end up just pulling out the 6x8 paper pad, and I like the mint color on this paper. You can't really see the snowmen by the time I've finished with it. I'm just using it as a backing card really. So you mostly just get that mint green as a border color, which I like. So just a little bit more off the photo there until I've got it how I like it, and then just adding it to the photo mat. This day ends up being pretty simple as well. So I'm going to flick through and find a tag that I like for my journaling, because I realized I didn't leave any space for it. So it's the magic of tags. It's always easy to add some journaling using one of those. This is just a tiny little one with a craft hole reinforcer that I got in a pack from Kmart. And I'm just using my Pigma Micron pen as always to do my journaling, and then I'll just go through and quickly underline everything. And then I'll add, I do add this red and white baker's twine, but then I decided I want to add something else, so I will pull that out in a second. Once I go to staple it, and then I think, oh, I saw these little gold strings that are on these little tree wood veneers, so I thought a bit of gold would be pretty, not taking into account that they're quite small now. Once I've cut that knot off, there's not a lot of length there, so it was kind of, and they're not very flexible at all. They want to stay straight, so it was really difficult for me to make that loop and then actually thread it through the hole. So this is a little bit laboured, but I do get there in the end. And then I had to staple it because that, like I said, that gold thread doesn't want to stay. But then, of course, this is the perfect time for my tiny attachment to run out of staples, so I had to go and refill it, but we got there in the end, so there we go, that is done. And now I'm flicking through my sticker book. I just want to add a couple of things to this side because it is very simple and very plain at the moment. I find this little bright banner, which is really sweet and understated, but it fills in that empty space in my photo quite nicely. And then I will add a couple of these little clear snowflakes from the Hey Santa sticker book, just to fill in those little gaps. Okay, so I'm going to go straight into days 17 and 18 while I'm at it, because this ended up being really quick. I'm just going to pop these numbers on here because I forgot, and I'll probably put some puffies or something over this side. So I'll finish that page off, but I just wanted to quickly go over what I'm planning on doing on this side. So I have the back of this pocket. It's a little boring. I don't just want to add another journal card and another photo. So I have this photo of my sweet little Violet. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet. I'm going to create a space for this tag to live in. So it's a little bit small at the moment. So I'll put this photo in one of these pockets with some pattern paper embellishing, and then I feel like I might do a shaker pocket at this point because I'm running out of creative ideas so for these pocket pages, so I might do a shaker pocket in one of these little pockets. This side is going to be another 4-page photo. Alright, so I have this one of my little man, and oh gosh, isn't he precious? He's just so precious in his Christmas pajamas with his little Christmas hat and just the most beautiful smile. Oh, I just love this little man so much. So that's going to go in there pretty much just as it is, I think. It doesn't need much more. So I just wanted to get an idea of how much red was going to be showing. Not much at all actually, so that's good. I didn't want too much red to be visible from this side because of all those pastels, but that will be perfectly fine. So I think I've got that red there. I might add another pop of red over this side because I have some, it's mostly red and neutrals on this side. So that is the plan. So this is actually not day 17 and 18 like I said earlier. It is just day 17, but it's a double page spread. So I'm just going to go through and finish off this side. I've totally forgot to add my number 16 and 15 on this side, so I'm just going to stick these straight on with tacky glue. Of course I dropped it. Glue side down. I'm just going to stick them on top of the snow globe, and once they're on there, I don't know, that little bear was kind of weird anyway. I didn't quite like how he looked, so I don't mind covering him up, and I really like how those numbers look sitting on top of that snow globe. So that has just gone in like that, perfect. And then I'm going to add some puffies over this side. I decided to add them to my little snowflake tab because I don't know, there just wasn't anywhere on the photo I wanted to stick them, and I didn't want to stick them on the acetate obviously because you'd be able to see them from the other side. So I do staple them on because the adhesive is not great on these puffies. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I like how that looks. So that is done. Let's move on to day 17. So like I said, I have this little photo of my little girl. Those other photos are from for the next day. So I'll just put those to the side and I'll just trim that down. That ends up being perfectly 3 inches tall, so it fits nicely there. And seeing that, I thought it would be nice to add it onto a journal card with some journaling, and I thought I would take that opportunity to use some more of these stamps that I've used earlier on in the project. So I chose the, I think, Right Now stamp, and I'm going to use the same Distress Oxide in Rustic Wilderness that I've used previously. I just really like that colour for Christmas, and it's new, so I'm having fun using it. I found this journal card. I like that it's like a grid pattern, so it provides me somewhere to write, but I did like that little pop of red from the poinsettia at the bottom there. So I'm just trimming it to the size that I want it, and then I'm just going to stick it together with the photo. So I trimmed it down. I could have just left it 3x4, but I really just wanted the square corners, which is why I did trim it, so that I trimmed off those rounded corners. And I just stuck it together with a photo and eyeballed it, and it ended up the perfect size. By some miracle. That never happens. So I'm really pleased about that. So I'm just going to do my stamping now. Really love this color, and it is a it's still a distress ink, you know, so it doesn't have that really crisp image, and I didn't prep this stamp either, and it is brand new, so it actually turned out really quite well considering. I'm just using that bit of scrap photo paper to mask off where I'm going to stamp, just in case there was any leftover ink on my stamp from stamping right. And there we go, that is done. So I'm just doing my journaling. She was playing with her dad's calculator, so I just said she's concentrating very hard on pushing the buttons. It's very serious work. So obviously it is for a 2-year-old. It's very, very important. So I'm going to use my last number 1 here to put the date in that space. I hadn't planned that. It just ended up being exactly the right shape and size for my number. And then a little clear sticker from the sticker book again. It's a perfect pink. It matches her top really nicely. Okay, so now I'm going to make my little slider pocket for my tag. And I like to do this just to make it easier to pop your tag in and out of the pocket. I've said this before, and also it stops it getting stuck on any double-sided tape that you might use instead. I've done that before where you've just used double-sided tape to make the little slider space, and my tags always get stuck on the tape because it doesn't dry down. So I use strips of cardboard and tacky glue, and that way the glue dries down dry and doesn't stick my tag later on. I do mess it up though, so it doesn't end up working properly, and it does keep falling out, so I will have to go back and fix that. So I'll show you why, what happens. So I'm adding double-sided tape everywhere around the outside, and then just, again, wet adhesive to the strips, because I don't want that sticky tape near my tag. So what happens is I stuck it all down, and then I realized I hadn't made my little thumb notch for my tag to go in and out of, so I ended up peeling it all apart to make the thumb notch with my little hole punch. There you go. Pop it in. So you can see I peel it apart quite fast, so that's why it just ends up being far too loose for my tag. So I will have to go in again and add some more glue to stick it all back nice and firmly, and then my tag won't fall out constantly. There we go, that is done. Really happy with that. Okay, so here's my big photo. Oh God, I love this photo so much. So I am just going to trim this down. At the moment it is 6x8, and my album is more like 5¼ inches by 8 inches. So I just have to trim a little bit off the side and just a tiny bit off the top. I'm using my little page template that I made. That is crucial. If you're going to do a project like this, I highly, highly recommend making a template so that you know where all your holes are going to go, especially if you do something like I did where my rings I've put in my album myself, so they're not like a standard ring spacing. So I find that, yeah, I've just found this little red template really helpful, and I did it on a bright red cardstock, so it's nice and easy to find in my little kit. So just punch the holes and pop it into the rings, even though it will come out again in a minute. I am just going to add a couple of stickers to that large photo. I don't need to add much, I mean it stands on its own, but I did find this little holly jelly in the sticker book, and I really like the soft pink and the muted red in it, and obviously it's very jolly. And I will just add a little cluster of these puffy stickers at the top corner here. I'm just going to use one of the large hearts and then 2 of the little smaller stars. I really don't mind mixing stars and hearts. I just was clearly having issues deciding which colours to use, but I'm really pleased with that. I brought some green over from that stamping, so that there's a bit of green on both sides now. I did want to add some of this pink trim. I haven't used any of this trim in this project yet, and I love it. It's super pretty little pink pom-pom trim. So I'm just going to add it with a strip of tacky glue just to hold it in place, and then I will sew it on with my machine in a minute once it's dried properly. I did have a bit of trouble because there's not a lot of edge on that trim, so yeah, it was tricky to sew, but you'll see that in a minute. What I'm doing now is just going through the paper pad, and I'm trying to find a background piece for my shaker pocket. So I did snip out that, I snipped out that tag because I liked it for another page, and then I've snipped snipped out that little rainbow because I want to use it in my pocket. And then I have chosen this really pretty corally pink polka dot paper to use as my backing piece. I'm just sticking that to the back of that journal card and rounding off the edges. And then I'll just pop it in and get all my bits and pieces ready to fill it with. So I'm just going to fussy cut around this rainbow. I just saw it as I was flipping through and thought that would be a sweet thing to add, nice and flat too. So I will also flip through, I think, some of the chipboard. So I do find a little tag in the chipboard. This is all that I have left of the chipboard from the Rosie Studio Rudolph and Friends collection. So I'm just going to peel the sticky back off that, pop those in. And then I'll go through, I think, my embellishments, my die cuts from the same Rosie Studio collection. I know I pull out the Snow and Cocoa snowflakes first. I do end up just using one of those little gold glitter ones. The first one that fell out and caught my eye, so I really like the bit of gold glitter there. And then, yeah, so I just pulled out a bunch of the little die cuts, and I do end up using a few of these. So the little candy cane and a couple of the stars. I think that might be it. And then I brought out my sequins. So these aren't all my sequins, they're just the dish that I have on my desk that I use the most, and or are in these little packets, like the Spiegelman Scraps ones. I do end up just using a bunch of these little gold cup sequins. And then I'm flipping through, and I end up finding this little set it's from a Planners Anonymous box that a friend gave me a while ago, and it is all just wintry themed, so it's all little white snowflakes, and there are some blue ones in there, but I've used, I think I picked most of those out, and I've just used some of the pink ones and the white ones and the little snowflakes, and they're really sweet and pretty. So I'm just going to fuss with that and get them as flat as I possibly can before running them through my sewing machine off camera. So there we go, I just did a row of straight stitching and then a zigzag stitch along the top of that to keep it all in. And then I just ran a straight stitch along the edge of that, and yeah, it did go off the edge a couple of times. It's a very thin piece of trim, so it was very close to the edge. But I did manage to at least get it most of the way on to the photo. So if it does start to come off, it won't come off completely, and I can always go back and attach it a bit better later if I have any issues. But that is it for today, so I really hope you enjoyed these pages. I'll do a slow little flip through, and then close-ups will be at the end. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.